Good day, sports fans. Thank you so much for joining us for today's lecture for this Cricket South Africa Level 1 umpiring course hosted by Western Province Cricket Umpires Association. My name is Abdullah Steenkamp and my usual co-presenter will be Tom Mokarosi. The format of tonight's lecture will be as follows. We are covering only 4 laws tonight. Yes, only 4, but these 4 laws are meaty laws. And they will take a bit of time for us to cover, hence only 4 to be covered tonight. I will do the first 2, law 19 and 20. I'll then hand over to Tom, who in turn will cover laws 21 and 22. After the lecture, we will then open the floor for the Q&A session. And as usual, if you have any questions, please put those in the chat box while I present, and please keep the questions content related. We will attend to the hands as raised after we looked at the questions in the chat box. So to kick off, law 19, the boundaries. So in modern day cricket, how do we determine the boundary of the field of play? Is there an exact measurement? Is there a maximum measurement? Is there a minimum measurement? According to the law, how umpires to determine the boundary of the field of play? It is up to the umpires. They will determine the boundary. They can decide how big or how small the boundary should be. And after deciding how the length of the boundaries, these boundaries then to be fixed for the duration of the match. So whatever size of field you decide on day 1 of your match, that same size to be for day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, if it's, let's say, a 5-day test match. The law wants no part of the side screen to be within the field of play. So in terms of identifying and how do we mark our boundary? So preferably the boundary to be marked by a continuous white line or by an object in contact with the ground. An example of this object is like a rope that you see on TV, or those Toblerones that you see on TV. That's ideally, okay, but we'll see later on. Not all grounds, have these white lines or ropes. So can you use anything else? We'll see it later in the slide. The law then guides us by telling us, so if the boundary is marked by a white line, the edge of the line nearest to the pitch shall be the boundary. Just bear with me. I'm going to go through a few theoretical points. I do have a pic later on that will show you exactly how the law works. But just bear with me for now. So if the boundary is marked by a white line, the edge of the line nearest to the pitch, that shall be your boundary. The law also allows for flags, posts, or boards, just to use 3 examples. And these flags, posts, or boards, they are merely there to highlight the position of the line marked on the ground. And these flags, posts, or boards must be placed beyond the boundary, and they shall not itself be regarded as the boundary. So if the boundary is marked by the means of an object that is in contact with the ground, the boundary will be the edge of the ground part of the object which is nearest to the pitch. Again, just bear with me. I do have a pic later on that will show you how this practically works. So if there's no white line and your boundary is marked by objects like flags, posts, or boards, now the law guides us by telling us the boundary shall be the imaginary straight line on the ground joining the 2 nearest marked points. Boundary that cannot be identified shall be determined by the umpires before the toss. Any obstacle within the field of play shall not be regarded as a boundary unless so decided by the umpires before the toss. You'll often find on school grounds where they sporting codes say a field like soccer, rugby, and cricket share one field, and you'll sometimes find rugby poles or soccer poles inside the field of play. So how do you determine the boundary then? The law tells us you, the umpires, together with the captains, you decide how you're going to deal with those posts or rugby poles that's inside the field of play. This needs to be discussed before the toss. You need to discuss what will happen if the ball, while in play, should hit the rugby poles or the soccer poles. A person or animal coming onto the field of play while the ball is still in play, law tell us, like let's say the ball gets hit to the boundary and a dog runs onto the field and then touches the ball. This shall not be regarded as a boundary, but there is a but, and that but is unless the umpires decided that if it was not for the intervention by the dog or a person that came onto the field, the ball would have gone over the boundary, let's say for a boundary 4, you, the umpires, can make that call. You need to look at each situation separately. You just make that call. If it wasn't for the dog that intercepted the ball, it would have gone for 4. You have the power, according to the law, to signal boundary 4. So here's this picture that I spoke about earlier that will show you exactly when it comes to the boundary how it works. Firstly, so if the boundary is a continuous white line, so where is the boundary? The inside edge of the white line where the arrow is pointing. If your boundary is a picket fence, where the arrow is pointing, that's where the boundary is. If it's a rope, the edge nearest, inside edge. If it's post, where the arrow is pointing. If it's flags, where the arrow is pointing. So runs scored from boundary. A boundary 6 will be scored and only scored if the ball is struck by the bat and it then goes on the full over the boundary without making contact with the field with the inside the field of play. You can only hit a boundary 6 if it's off the bat. So in an example where, if you can visualize this, quick bowler bowling 155 k's per hour, bowls a short ball, the batter plays a hook shot, the ball then misses the bat and it hits the helmet. And because the bowler is so quick, it then ricochets from the helmet and goes to fine leg and goes over the fine leg boundary on the full. So now everyone's going to look at the umpire. Everyone's going to expect to see a umpire to signal boundary 6. No, you, the umpire, in this scenario is going to indicate, firstly, leg bias and then boundary 4. Why boundary 4? Even though the ball went on the full over the rope, because the law tells us a boundary 6 can only be scored if the ball was struck by the bat. How do you score boundary 4? Boundary 4 will be scored when a ball that first makes contact with the ground inside the boundary. When a boundary is scored, the batting side shall be awarded whichever is the greater of either the boundary or runs completed by the batters together with the run in progress if they crossed at the instant when the ball touches the boundary. So to give you an example, how 7.3 is working in a scenario where, and you'll find this on those huge fields, where let's say the ball gets hit by the striker towards the cover boundary and they start running. As the ball is trickling towards the boundary, batters completed 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. But the ball is still rolling towards the boundary and the fielder is chasing it. And now the batters completed 5. And as they complete 5, now the ball goes over the boundary. So, how many runs? The law guides us, the law tells us. You need to take the greater of the two. And in my example, because the batters completed 5 runs, and yes, the ball went over the boundary, touched the boundary rope, but because 5 is the greater of the two, you will allocate 5 towards the total score and obviously 5 towards the striker's score. The scoring of penalty runs by either side is not affected by the scoring of a boundary. So if there's any penalties, yes, you'll give the boundary, but you'll also add the penalty runs in the scorebook under the penalty run section. Let's have a look at what the laws say when it comes to boundary catching.
Boundary catching. In cricket, a catch is considered to be fair if the fielder is within the field of play and the ball hasn't touched the ground before he or she catches it. The fielder must have complete control both over the ball and his or her own movement. Can a batsman be caught over the boundary? Well, this being cricket, the answer is yes and no. If the fielder catches the ball like this, with part of the body grounded outside the field of play, then the lucky old batsman is not only not out, but also scores a 6. However, if in the same situation the fielder has leapt for the ball from within the boundary, but not from outside it, caught it whilst airborne over the boundary, but managed to throw it up in the air before touching the ground, he or she can then step back into the field of play to complete the catch. It doesn't matter if the fielder throws it to a teammate or completes the catch on his or her own. In this scenario, the same batsman who just scored 6 would in fact have been out. As they frequently say, it's a funny old game. For Oodle's more details on this subject, take a look at Laws 19 and 33 in MCC's The Laws of Cricket.
So what happens if there's a overthrow or a willful act by the fielder, and this overthrow results in a boundary? So what happens if a boundary results from either an overthrow or a willful act? How will the runs be scored? As follows. If there were any runs for penalties, that to stand. If there was a no ball or a wide, that will stand. You will give the allowance for the boundary. So if it goes over the boundary, let's say boundary 4, that allowance for the boundary to count. And then runs completed by the batters together with a run in progress if they crossed at the instant of the throw also to count. So just to summarize again, if a boundary results when there was an overthrow or a willful act by a fielder, runs to be scored as follows: no ball or wide to count, so any penalties will count. You will give the allowance for the boundary and the completed runs to count, and if they cross at the instant of the throw or act. So when it comes to overthrows, and especially if it goes over the boundary, the important thing is when it comes to the runs that will additionally be scored, you need to look at where the batters were at the instant of the throw. Where's the instant of the throw? If you can just visualize the ball in my hand, the instant of the throw is when the fielder throws the ball and it releases out of his or her hand. That is at the instant of the throw or act if there was a willful act by the fielder. So importantly, you need to judge where the batters were, how many runs were completed, did they cross or not cross, where at the instant when the fielder threw the ball. Yes, you can consult with your colleague just to make 100% sure where if the batters crossed at the instant of the throw or act, and if they did cross at the instant of the throw, that run that they were busy with will count. If they did not, that run will then not count. Let's have a look at a video, and this happened, excuse me, in a World Cup final, where the two umpires missed at the instant of the throw, and you'll see the batters did not cross yet. But let's listen to the video, and you'll see the importance of to check where the batters were at the instant of the throw, because that will determine how many runs to be scored and which batter faces the next ball.
Hello and welcome to the Cricket Digest channel. World Cup final match saw one of the most thrilling finish ever witnessed in an ODI match. However, an overthrow in the 50th over of England innings has sparked the debate. A throw from Martin Guptill deflected after hitting Ben Stokes, who was diving to save his wicket, and the ball crossed the boundary line. Many people were confused about how an overthrow is valid after the ball touches the batsman. Point to be considered here is everyone in the field, including the batsman and the umpires, are considered as part of the play, and the fielding side has to take this into consideration. Hence, the ball getting deflected from either a batsman or an umpire will not be called a dead ball. However, if a batsman makes deliberate contact with the ball, or if he deliberately comes in the way of a throw, then the ball will be immediately called dead and the batsman will be given out, obstructing the field. But in the case of Ben Stokes, he had come in the way of throw, but he did not do it deliberately. He was running hard to save his wicket and he did not make deliberate contact with the ball either. It looks unfair to the fielding side in this case, but one should also take into consideration that catching after the ball hits either an umpire or a batsman is valid. Hence, allowing overthrow was well within the laws of the game. But there was a mistake committed by the umpires in this incident. They awarded 6 runs, whereas only 5 runs should have been awarded. According to Cricket Law 19.8, if the boundary results from an overthrow or from the willful act of a fielder, then the runs scored shall be allowance for the boundary, which is 4 runs in this case, and the runs completed by the batsman plus the run in progress if the batsman had already crossed at the instant of the throw. Ben Stokes and Adil Rashid had completed the first run, but they had not crossed for the second run at the instant of the throw. Hence, only 1 run should have been awarded for running, and in total 5 runs should have been awarded. Law further states that if the batsman had not crossed at the instant of the throw, then they should be sent to the end they have left. Meaning, in this case, Adil Rashid should have been sent to the striker's end and Ben Stokes should have been sent to the non-striking end for next delivery. If this law was applied properly, then the New Zealand team would have had a good chance to win the World Cup. Do you feel any different? Do let us know in the comment section. Hello and
The next law is the dead ball law. Very important law. I mean, all laws are important, but this one is very important. Lots of players, they don't know the laws. It's important that umpires do know, and especially when it comes to this dead ball law. So, what is this dead ball term in the laws of cricket? So we'll see now there are instances where something happens on the field of play, and as soon as that thing happens or that incident happens, the ball then becomes dead, And as soon as the ball becomes dead, anything that happens after that is irrelevant. So we'll go through those instances now. There are 8 instances where the ball automatically becomes dead. Something happens, the ball then automatically becomes dead. Umpires, when the ball automatically becomes dead, technically does not have to call and signal dead ball, but good umpiring technique, and because many players, or most of them, don't know the laws, so at times it's good to call and signal dead ball because many players, they don't know the laws. So there are 8 instances where the ball automatically becomes dead, and there are 14 instances where the umpires needs to call and signal dead ball. But let's kick off with when the ball automatically becomes dead. Firstly, when it finally settles or settled in the hands of the keeper or of the bowler. So as soon as it's finally settled, the ball then automatically becomes dead. Who decides when a ball is finally settled in the keeper's hands or the bowler's hands? The umpires. As soon as a boundary is scored, the ball automatically becomes dead. As soon as a batter is dismissed, whether it's bowled, caught, run out, just to name 3 dismissals, as soon as that happens, the ball is automatically dead. The 4th instance where the ball automatically becomes dead, when it gets trapped between the bat and person of a batter, or gets trapped between items of the batter's clothing or equipment, the ball then automatically becomes dead. When the ball lodges in the clothing or equipment of a batter or the clothing of an umpire, excuse me, the ball automatically becomes dead. The ball automatically becomes dead, and we will cover this uh, next week when under Law 24, when a player returns without permission, and under Law 28, when there was illegal fielding. As soon as this happens, the ball automatically becomes dead. The ball also automatically becomes dead if it hits the protective helmet that was placed by the fielding side behind the keeper while the ball was still in play. As soon as the ball hits the helmet while still in play, the ball automatically becomes dead. And then lastly, as soon as the match is done, as soon as the match is concluded, the ball automatically becomes dead. So yes, as soon as these 8 instances happen, the ball automatically becomes dead. But there are some of them that, because players don't know the law, good umpiring technique is to call and signal dead ball. Like an example, number 5. If the ball lodges in the clothing or equipment of a batter, like if you can visualize the batter plays the ball and it lodges in the flap of the striker's pad, as soon as it lodges in that pad, the ball automatically becomes dead. Good umpiring technique, call and signal dead ball loudly. As I said to you, lots of players, they don't know the law. So as soon as you utter those words or call it out loudly, the ball is then dead, and anything that happens after that is irrelevant. We've covered in under law 17, as soon as the sixth ball of the eagle ball of the over is bowled, umpire needs to call over. But importantly, before you call over, or if you call time to end the session or the day's play, please wait until the ball is dead. Then you call over, or then you call time. Please don't call over while the ball is still alive, while batters are still running, or while the ball fielders are still chasing after the ball. Don't be in a hurry to call over or time. Wait till the ball is dead, then call over and time. Also, the ball to be considered dead when it is clear to the bowlers in umpire that both the fielding side and the batters at the wicket, they have now ceased to regard the ball as still in play. But it needs to be both fielding sides and both batters. If, we, if the bowlers in umpire satisfied that they've ceased to regard the ball as still in play, the ball will then be dead. I mentioned it earlier. Who decides whether the ball is finally settled or not in the keeper's hands or in the bowler's hands? It is for the umpires, they to decide. There are 14 instances where the umpires needs to call and signal dead ball. And the calling and signaling of dead ball, as soon as you utter those words, the ball is then dead, and anything that happens after that is irrelevant. So the first instance where umpires needs to call and signal dead ball, if they are going to intervene in the case of any unfair play, before going to intervene, please call and signal dead ball, because as soon as you utter those words, the ball is now dead. It stops any fielding side to do anything, stops everyone from doing anything. Anything that happens after you utter those words, dead ball, is irrelevant. Second instance, where the umpire needs to call and signal dead ball. If there is a possible, and I'm going to emphasize with the next word, serious injury to any player or umpire. But it needs to be, and it's your judgment call. You need to make that call. But the criteria that you need to take into account is when it comes to this injury, according to you, it needs to be a possible serious injury and to any player or umpire. If that happens, you need to intervene by calling and signaling dead ball. This is an example. Let's say bowler bowls a short ball, striker plays the ball, gets hit against the head, and you can see the striker's dazed. That to me is definitely an example of a serious injury to the striker. You need to intervene. And how do you intervene? You call and signal dead ball immediately if you can see this is now a serious injury that happened to any player. And as soon as you utter those words, the ball then becomes dead, and anything that happens after that is irrelevant. Umpires need to call and signal dead ball if you are going to leave your normal position to consult your colleague. Like bowler delivers the ball, batter gets an edge, goes to second slip, takes it low to the ground. Bowlers in umpires view got blocked by the bowler in his or her follow through. So bowlers in umpires not sure whether that ball carried to second slip or not. So now it's time to consult your colleague at strikers in. So before going to consult your colleague, please call and signal dead ball. Then after calling and signaling dead ball, now you go and consult your colleague. So this call and signaling of dead ball, it just stops, especially the fielding side, from doing anything else while you consult your colleague. Umpires needs to call and signal dead ball if one or both bails falls from the striker's wicket, and emphasis on striker's wicket, before the striker has had an opportunity of playing at the ball. So you, the umpire, either umpire can intervene, although the strikers in umpires in the best position, because many a times the striker will block the bowlers in umpires' view of the stumps, and the bowlers and umpires, most cases, not able to see whether one or both bails fell from the striker's wicket. It's not impossible. Bowlers in umpire can sometimes see it, but most of the time, his or her view is blocked. Strikers in umpire will have a good view. So strikers in umpire, you need to be alert that strikers in. So if one or both bails falls from the strikers in, you need to intervene by calling and signaling dead ball. Excuse me. So what happens if the ball falls from the bowler's end? If players are playing, if players are not bothered and they're playing on, you won't intervene. You let play continue. The law only tells us if one or both bails falls from the striker's wicket, you need to intervene by calling and signaling dead ball. You also need to call and signal dead ball if the striker is not ready for delivery of the ball, and let's say the bowler do deliver the ball, striker makes no attempt to play at the ball. So you can find a situation where the striker's not ready, and the law tells us you, the umpire, needs to be satisfied that the striker had a good reason for not being ready, and this ball to not count as one of the legal balls of the over. So intervene. If you see the striker is not ready for the delivery of the ball, call and signal dead ball. Also, a bowler's umpire needs to call and signal dead ball if the striker is distracted by any noise or movement or in any other way while receiving the delivery. An example of this, someone walking in front of the side screen. So the striker is distracted by that movement by someone walking in front of the side screen. If you see this, intervene, you call and signal dead ball. For those of you that's going to join us for level 2 and level 3, when we're going to go into detail in Law 41. So under Law 41, there are 2 subsections in there. 41.4, where there is a deliberate attempt to distract the striker, or 41.5, when there was a deliberate distraction or deception or obstruction of either batter. In those instances, you, the umpire, needs to intervene by calling and signaling dead ball. And that ball to not count as one for the over. But for now, just know if 41.4 and 41.5 happens, you need to intervene by calling and signaling dead ball. In level 2 and 3, we're going to go into lots of detail when it comes to Law 41. If the bowler, while running, accidentally drops the ball before delivery. So if it's accidentally, you intervene by calling and signaling dead ball. So as soon as you utter that words, the ball is dead. Anything that happens after that is irrelevant. If for whatever reason the bowler decides to throw the ball towards the striker's end while running in and before entering his or her delivery stride. So if the bowler throws towards the striker's end, not the bowler's end, the striker's end, for whatever reason, you need to intervene by calling and signaling dead ball. If for whatever reason the bowler decides not to deliver the ball, you need to intervene by calling and signaling dead ball. So the ball does not leave the bowler's hand for any reason. Intervene by calling and signaling dead ball. You need to call and signal dead ball if you, the umpires, are satisfied that the ball in play cannot be recovered. You need to call and signal dead ball if you, the umpires, consider that either side might be disadvantaged by a person, animal, or any other object coming within the field of play. So if you see a dog running onto the field of play, dog stopping the ball, fielder picks it up, might throws to the keeper, might run out one of the batters. That's an example of the batting side being disadvantaged by the dog touching the ball. Law gives you the power to intervene by calling and signaling dead ball as soon as that dog touches the ball. But it's a judgment call. It's the call that you need to make. The criteria that you need to take into account is if you feel that this can be a person entering the field, animal or object, and when they came onto the field and touched the ball, it will disadvantage either of the side. Doesn't have to just be the batters, can disadvantage the fielding side as well. Law gives you power to intervene, and you call and signal dead ball, and anything that happens after you call and signal dead ball is irrelevant. I mentioned earlier under law 19, the boundary law, if you, the umpire, decides that the ball went to the boundary and a dog came running onto the field, intercepted the ball, if you think if it wasn't for that interception of the dog, the ball actually would have gone for 4, you have the power to signal boundary 4. So yeah, lots happening. You need to make that call. If you think it will have gone for 4, you can signal boundary 4. If you think one of the sides will be disadvantaged by the dog or animal or dog or person touching it, you can intervene by calling and signaling dead ball. The law wants the striker to at all times remain on the pitch when playing the ball. The striker cannot leave the pitch to play the ball. If the striker has no part of his or her person with the grounded or raised on the pitch, you need to intervene by calling and signaling dead ball. And lastly, you need to call and signal dead ball. There are some other laws where there will be instances where you need to call and signal dead ball. That's not covered in this 13 examples. Just to give an example, we will get to it when we get to leg buys, not to be awarded when a batter does not offer a shot. It hits the body, or let's say hits the pad, and they start running. There will be an instance where you need to intervene as the umpire by calling and signaling dead ball due to the striker ball hitting the person and the striker did not attempt to play at the ball or try to take evasive action. This is just an example of point 14 where there are other laws here that you'll find in the book that's not mentioned in these 13 where you need to call and signal dead ball. First question. I want you to look at the video and I want you to decide whether you're going to call or signal dead ball or are you going to give the striker a run out. We've covered this, I've just covered this under the dead ball law. So look at the video and then make your call. In the chat box, put 20, quiz 20, let's say 20.1, and give your answer, dead ball or run out. So let's have a look at the video. So you can see the ball hits the batter on the hand. Fielder picks up the ball, throws it at the stumps. Batter's not behind the popping crease. So now you need to decide. Are you going to give Muhammad Wasim out run out or do you say this is a dead ball? Course question 20.1. Put it in the chat box. And then lastly, this happened in an Ashes Test match in England many years ago. Let's have a look at the video.
this time.
Australia's one win away from securing its first series victory in England since 2001.
Being up 2-0 is something we should be really proud of as a group.
It's a tough one to swallow, sort of getting so close.
The tourists needed 6 wickets on day 5.
Well taken. Carey again.
England's pursuit of 371 ground to a halt when a shocked Johnny Bairstow was stumped, an incident that incensed the crowd. The English players were also fuming.
Didn't look like a particularly well-mannered conversation.
A fired-up Ben Stokes revived memories of his heroic match-winning innings in the 3rd Test 4 years ago.
An epic way to go to a Test match 100. Well, he is there. England have hope.
He gives me nightmares, that guy. Seriously, PTSD from Headingley.
A missed opportunity when Stokes was on 114 looked like it would be costly, as the hard-hitting skipper continued his assault.
Yes, indeed.
Some real problems to work through there for us bowlers, and as a captain, I thought Stokes was fantastic.
With the home team needing 70, the Australians finally had their man.
And Carey, Hazelwood combine to end a quite magnificent innings.
We're 2-0 down, but we've got 3 games left, and we've won series 3-0 against New Zealand, 3-0 against Pakistan, so we know we can do it.
History suggests otherwise. The only team to overcome a 2-0 deficit to win the series was a Don Bradman-inspired Australia in 1937. Duncan Huntsdale, ABC News.
Singing out, same old Aussies, always cheating.
There were ugly scenes at the home of cricket as Australians left the field at lunch on the final day. The normally genteel long room reached boiling point as the members vented their disgust.
Some of the stuff that was coming out of the members' mouth was really disappointing, and I wasn't just going to stand by and cop it. I just talked to a few of them throwing out some pretty big allegations, and I just called them up on it.
This was the incident that sparked the fire.
Oh, now this is going to be interesting.
Before the ball had been deemed dead by the umpire, quick-thinking keeper Alex Carey caught his English counterpart Johnny Bairstow napping. The stumping was certainly within the rules of the game, but whether it was within its spirit is now at the centre of furious debate.
If the shoe was on the other foot, I would probably just have to have a little think around the sort of whole spirit of the game and things like that. So, look, it's happened, it's out.
Is it going to affect relations between the teams?
Well, I can't imagine we'll be having a beer anytime soon, if that's what you're asking.
The Australian captain defended Carey's actions and the decision not to withdraw the appeal.
I thought it was totally fair play. That's how the rule is. I know some people might disagree.
You see Johnny do it all the time. He did it day 1 to Davey Warner. He did it in 2019 to Steve. It's a really common thing for keepers to do.
Cricket Australia said its players were verbally abused and physically touched as they made their way through the members' area.
The MCC came and apologised for their behaviour of some of the members.
3 members have been suspended pending an investigation by the Marylebone Cricket Club, which described the scenes as wholly unacceptable. Tom Maddox, ABC News.
Tom, thank you so much. That's my laws that I'm covering tonight. I'm taking a single, and you can take strike for the rest of the over. Over to you, Tom.
So law 21 is no ball. And remember that the course that we are presenting is based on the laws of cricket. There are some no balls that you will see in limited overs cricket that are not covered in the laws of cricket because those are based on playing conditions for specific tournaments or matches. The no balls that we will be going through today, as well as the wides that we'll be going through today, are based on and are close to test match cricket no balls and wides. So keep that in mind as we go through today's presentation. So the first thing that we need to talk about in terms of no balls is the mode of delivery. When a bowler starts a spell, they need to advise their bowlers and umpire as to the mode of delivery that they will be bowling. The first thing that they will tell us is if they are right-handed or left-handed. And you do find more common nowadays than ever before, bowlers who bowl with both their right hand and their left hand. They are allowed to do so, but every time they change, they need to tell the umpire what mode of delivery they're changing to. So firstly, the arm that they use to bowl needs to be communicated. And then secondly, they need to communicate whether they're bowling around the wicket or over the wicket. So what is round the wicket and what is over the wicket for those of you who don't know? Let's take first the example of a right-hander. If a right-hander is bowling with the stumps next to the right arm, then they are bowling over the wicket, right arm over the wicket. But if the right-hander decides to change and bowl on the other side of the stumps, where the stumps are closer to the left arm, then the bowler will be bowling right arm around the wicket. So you can simply use the proximity of the arm to the stumps to determine whether a bowler is bowling right arm around the wicket if the stumps are here, or right arm over the wicket if the stumps are here. Similarly with the left-hander, if the left-hander is bowling and the stumps are here, that would be left arm over the wicket. And if the left-hander is bowling and the stumps are here, then it would be left arm around the wicket. So as and when a bowler decides to change their mode of delivery, the umpire needs to be informed. And the law actually states that it is the prerogative of the umpire to find out the mode of delivery from the bowler. So if the bowler does not tell you what their mode of delivery is, then you as the bowlers and umpire needs to ask that bowler, are you bowling right hand? Are you bowling left hand? Are you bowling round the wicket or are you bowling over the wicket? And that bowler needs to bowl the mode of delivery that they have communicated to you. If they bowl a mode of delivery that is different to what they communicated to you, then you will call and signal no ball, and you will tell them the reason for the call and signal of no ball is because they bowled using a mode of delivery different to what they told you. Please do ask the bowler for their mode of delivery if they don't tell you. It is, as per law, the prerogative of the umpire to find out from the bowler. And once we found out from the bowler, then we verbalize that mode of delivery to the striker. So the striker knows the bowler's mode of delivery. Does the bowler have to tell the umpire if they're bowling fast, medium, or spin? No. The type of delivery that the bowler is going to bowl does not have to be explained and can be changed without explanation. So a bowler can change from fast to spin to whatever type of bowling that they want to bowl, but the mode of delivery, whether it's with the right hand or the left hand, around the wicket or over the wicket, needs to be communicated. As I mentioned, it is the umpire that shall ascertain whether the bowler intends to bowl right-handed or left-handed over or around the wicket. So please, very important, if a bowler doesn't mention, then you need to ask them. It is unfair if the bowler fails to notify the umpire of a change in his or her mode of delivery. And in the case that a bowler changes his or her mode of delivery without informing the umpire, then the umpire shall call and signal no ball. Underarm bowling allowed? No, underarm bowling shall not be permitted except by special agreement before the match. This time last year, we had an outdoor practical training of umpiring of blind cricket matches. And in blind cricket matches, they use a ball which has got pins inside, so it makes a noise, and they roll that ball underarm to the batter. That's what the bowler does. There, as per law, the agreement before the match for matches that are played by blind people, they are allowed to bowl underarm. But in normal matches, or if there is no agreement for underarm bowling, then underarm bowling is not allowed. And of course, we know that a bowler's arm needs to be straight. For a delivery to be fair, in respect of the arm, the ball must not be thrown. The elbow must not be bent. Interesting one. Can we judge with the naked eye if the elbow is bent or not? So the International Cricket Council and all cricket playing member nations around the world, they allow for a 15-degree flex or bend in the elbow, which is difficult, almost impossible to judge using the naked eye. So we as umpires are not to call and signal no ball if there is a suspect action. We need to, if we feel that the elbow bend might be more than 15 degrees, then we need to submit a suspect bowling action report and send it to the governing body responsible for cricket in that area. And they will perform investigations as per the bowler's action. And if tested and found to be illegal, then that bowler will be suspended from bowling until they have rectified his or her bowling action. But for us as umpires, we do not call a bowler who we think has a suspicious action. We do not call and signal no ball. If a bowler runs up and changes his or her action, and you can see deliberately throws the ball with the elbow definitely bent more than 15 degrees, then we can call and signal no ball. Quiz question 21.1. Remember we said that the International Cricket Council allows a 15-degree flex or bend in the elbow. The bowling action of Jasprit Bumrah, the famous Indian fast bowler, has come under scrutiny over the years. What do you guys think? This is a quiz question in this particular law, Law 21. So we're calling it Q21.1. Is Bumrah's action legal? And if it is, why is it legal? Because that does look like a more than 15% bend or flex. Is Jasprit Bumrah's action legal? Please type into the chat box Q21.1 yes or Q21.1 no. And if you say it is legal, give us a reason. If you say it's not legal, please give us a reason, and we will discuss it after I've presented laws 21 and 22. So what action do we take if a ball is delivered underarm or is thrown by a bowler? Law tells us that if, in the opinion of either umpire, the ball has been thrown or delivered underarm, then he or she shall call and signal dead ball. And when the ball is dead, inform the other umpire for the reason for the call. The bowler's end umpire shall then warn the bowler, indicating that this is a first and final warning for underarm bowling or throwing. This warning shall apply to that bowler throughout the innings. We shall inform everybody of that first and final warning. So what happens if that same bowler in the same innings throws the ball again or delivers the ball underarm again? The bowler's end umpire shall call and signal no ball, and when the ball is dead, inform the other umpire of what has happened and follow the following procedure. We need to direct the captain of the fielding side to suspend the bowler from the attack. That means that the bowler cannot bowl in that innings for the rest of that innings. The over shall be completed by another bowler who hasn't bowled any part of the previous over and cannot bowl any part of the next over. We will inform everybody and we will report the matter to the governing body of the match that is in progress. Is a bowler allowed to throw the ball at the striker's end before reaching his or her delivery stride? Law says that if the bowler throws the ball towards the striker's end before entering their delivery stride, it is not a no ball. It will be a dead ball. Abdullah has just gone through it. We need to call and signal dead ball if a bowler, maybe they notice that the striker is standing outside of his or her crease and they think that they can run out that striker by throwing the ball at the striker's stumps. No, they're not allowed to do so. Either umpire shall call and signal dead ball. It might happen behind the bowler's end umpire's back. So if they don't see it, then the striker's end umpire sees it. The striker's end umpire will call and signal dead ball. And we can also warn that bowler that if they do that again, they will be warned for time wasting. Now we move on to another mode of no ball, and this is what we have to deal with every match. We need to watch the landing of the bowler's feet. There are 2 feet when the bowler bowls the ball. In their bowling action, we have the back foot that will land first, and then we'll have the front foot that will land second. The 2 feet, the landing of the 2 feet are governed by 2 different creases. The landing of the back foot is governed by the return crease, and the landing of the front foot is governed by the popping crease. Let's read how these 2 feet are governed by those 2 creases. Law tells us that for a delivery to be fair in respect of the feet, the bowler's back foot must land within and not touching the return crease. Within and not touching. Very important. The back foot of the bowler must not touch the return crease, and it must be wholly inside the return crease on the side of the crease that they have told us they're going to bowl. What about the front foot? The bowler's front foot must land with some part of the foot, whether grounded or raised, on the same side of the imaginary line joining the two middle stumps as the return crease. So if you as a bowler tell me that you are bowling right arm over the wicket, then the stumps are here and you cannot land with your front foot on the other side of the middle stump. Okay, so both feet need to be this side of the middle stump if we say that we are bowling right arm over the wicket. And of course, some part of the bowler's front foot needs to land, whether grounded or raised, behind the back edge of the popping crease. Okay, we will look at some pictures to determine whether or not the landing of a bowler's feet are legal for a delivery or if it is a no ball. If the bowlers and umpire is not satisfied that all of these three conditions have been met, then he or she shall call and signal no ball. So let's look at our first example. Here, if we look at the front foot first, we see that most of the foot is grounded behind the back edge of the popping crease, so the front foot is fine. Let's look at the back foot. The back foot is governed by the return crease. Is the back foot allowed to touch the return crease? No, it is not. The back foot needs to be entirely inside the return crease, or at least must not be touching if it is raised above the return crease. So in this scenario, we can see that the heel of the back foot is clearly touching the return crease. So this is a no ball. Next example, let's start with the front foot again. It is well behind the back edge of the popping crease, so no problems with the front foot. What about the back foot? The back foot has landed with the ball of the foot grounded inside the return crease, so that's fine. What about the heel of the back foot? The heel of the back foot is raised above the return crease. Is it touching the return crease? No, it's not. So because it is raised and not touching the return crease, this is fine. Front foot is fine, back foot is fine, so this is a fair delivery. Why? Because the back foot is raised above the return crease. It's not touching the return crease. So this is a fair delivery. What about this one? Let's start with the back foot this time. The back foot is just inside the return crease. All of it is grounded. None of it is touching the return crease. So the back foot is fine. What about the front foot? The front foot is behind the popping crease. About 3/4 of the front foot is grounded behind the popping crease. So the front foot is also fine. Some people might wonder, is the front foot allowed to be outside the return crease? Yes, it is. Remember that it is the back foot that is governed by the return crease. The front foot is only governed by the popping crease. Is there some part of the front foot behind the back edge of the popping crease? Yes. About 3/4 of that foot is behind the popping crease. So the front foot can be outside the return crease. It can be on the return crease. It can be inside the return crease. Doesn't matter, as long as some part of the front foot is grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease, we have a fair delivery. Okay. Next one, quite similar, except we can see the front of the back foot, or let's say the toes of the back foot are touching the return crease. Is the back foot allowed to touch the return crease? No, it's not. This is a no ball. Okay. Let's start here with the back foot. The back foot is well inside the return crease. No problems there. Let's move on to the front foot. The front foot is grounded mostly in front of the popping crease. Is there anything grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? If you look very closely, you will see that there's about a centimeter of the shoe grounded behind the back edge of the popping crease. So this is tight, and I would tell the bowler to come back a little bit because I want to focus on what we call the business end where the striker is. I don't want to use all my concentration on the landing of the front foot. Yes, it is a fair delivery. There is some part of that front foot behind the back edge of the popping crease, but I would still have a quiet word with the bowler after the delivery to tell him or her to come back a little bit because this was very tight. Very tight, but a fair delivery. Now, what about this one? That front foot has moved a little bit further forward. Is there any part of that front foot grounded or raised behind the back edge of the popping crease? No, there is not. Remember, the line belongs to the umpire. We need some part of that foot behind the back edge of the line. There is nothing behind the back edge of this line. So this is a no ball. This is a very big no ball. Easy decision. No ball. Sometimes what could happen is a bowler could land comfortably behind the popping crease and then their foot slides over the popping crease. Where do we judge it? We judge it on first landing. So if a bowler lands behind the back edge of the popping crease but then slides over, that would be a fair delivery. But in this scenario, we are assuming all of these pictures are first landing. If this is the first landing, then this is definitely a big no ball. No part of the front foot behind the back edge of the popping crease. Side view for more precise viewing. Back foot, we can see well inside the return crease, no problems there. Let's look at the front foot. Front foot, the ball of the foot is grounded past or in front of the popping crease. What about the heel? The heel is raised. Question to ask again, is there any part of the front foot, whether grounded or raised, behind the back edge of the popping crease? The answer is yes. There's probably about 2 centimeters raised behind the front edge of the popping crease. So this is not easy to judge, especially with your angle from behind the stumps at the bowler's end, but this is a fair delivery. What about this one? Similar to the previous one, but a big difference is that the front foot is a little bit further forward. And now if you follow my mouse cursor, there is nothing behind the back edge of the popping crease. Okay, foot is raised. It is raised above the line. The furthest back of the foot is about cutting the line in half. Remember what I said earlier? The line belongs to the umpire. Therefore, this is a no ball. There is no part of the front foot, whether grounded or raised, behind the back edge of the popping crease. Okay, there are some bowlers. Lazard Williams, who has played a few matches for South Africa and played for the Pretoria Capitals in the SA20. He lands with his front foot, the heel not touching the ground, makes it difficult to judge. So again, tell the bowler to come back so that it is clear and obvious to you if it is a fair delivery, or clear and obvious if it is a no ball. The tight ones are very difficult to call, especially if the heel does not touch the ground. So here we have a diagram. And the reason that this is a diagram and not a picture of an actual bowler is I've never seen this happen before. So this is a left arm over the wicket bowler. And we said that if a bowler says that they are left arm over the wicket, they need both feet to land on this side of the middle stump. Okay, so the back foot has landed inside the return crease, and it has landed this side of the middle stump. That's fine. What about the front foot? The front foot, there is about a quarter or a third of the front foot grounded behind the back edge of the popping crease, but they have gone past the middle stump and onto the other side of the stumps. This is no longer a left arm over the wicket bowler because they have, with their front foot, crossed the middle stump and gone to the other side of the stumps. And if you think about it, this position would definitely obstruct the bowlers and umpires' view of what's happening at the striker's end. So this will be called a no ball. Why? Because the bowler has changed his or her mode of delivery without informing the umpire. Let's look at more ways that a ball can be a no ball. If a bowler breaks the wicket or the stumps at the bowler's end in his or her delivery stride, either umpire shall call and signal no ball. This can be the bowler's hand, it can be his or her arm, it can be any part of their body, it can even be a towel that is tucked at the back of their pants. If it flies out and hits the stumps and the bails are removed while the bowler is in his or her bowling action, then we will call and signal no ball. So always watch when a bowler is bowling with a towel tucked into their back. Does that towel look like it might come out at any stage? If it does, then rather take it from them or tell them to give it to the mid-on or the mid-off fielder for keeping while they are bowling. Is the ball allowed to bounce more than once or roll towards the striker's end? No. The umpire shall call and signal no ball if a ball which he or she considers to have been delivered without having previously touched the bat or person of the striker, if it bounces more than once, or rolls along the ground before it reaches the popping crease of the striker, then interestingly, it says the umpire. It doesn't specify which umpire. If you think about it, who is in the best position to judge the second bounce? Is it before the popping crease or is it after the popping crease? Because if the ball bounces after the popping crease, between the popping crease and the stumps, then it is a legal delivery. But if it bounces 5 centimeters before the popping crease, so in front of the striker, then it is a no ball. So the striker's end umpire is in a great position, square of the wicket, to see where the second bounce happened in terms of proximity to the popping crease. Did it bounce in front of the popping crease for a second time, or did it bounce behind the popping crease? So teamwork is required there. Obviously, you as the bowler's end umpire can see that there is a second bounce, but it is the striker's end who is in the best position to judge whether that second bounce was before or after the popping crease. So some signals between the two umpires would help. If I'm the striker's end umpire and I see the second bounce is before the popping crease, then I can call and signal no ball. If I see that the second bounce is after the popping crease, I can show thumbs up to my partner to show him or her that it is a fair delivery. If the ball pitches wholly or partially off the pitch before it reaches the line of the striker's wicket, then it shall also be called a no ball. Remember, we said the width of a pitch is 3.05 meters. So if a bowler bowls the ball and it is quite wide, if the ball lands off the pitch, but before the line of the striker's wicket, before the line of the bowling crease, then it is a no ball. If it is delivered and it is a full toss, it doesn't bounce, and it only bounces after the stumps, but it's off the pitch, it will not be a no ball, it will be called a wide. And again, person in the best position to judge whether the ball is landed before the line of the stumps or after the line of the stumps is the striker's end umpire. So similar to my previous example, the striker's end umpire can also signal to the bowler's end umpire where he or she thought the ball landed. Did it land before the line of the stumps or did it land after the line of the stumps? If it landed before the line of the stumps off the pitch, then the bowler's end umpire should call and signal no ball. If it landed after the line of the stumps off the pitch, then the bowler's end umpire should call and signal wide ball. So I mentioned last week that if we're using a non-turf pitch, in South Africa, a lot of schools who don't have turf pitches, they use cement pitches, which are covered by a mat. Sometimes that cement and mat pitch is not 3.05 meters wide. So law tells us here in this last sentence that whatever the width of that artificial pitch is, if the ball lands off that pitch, then it is to be called and signaled no ball if it lands before the line of the stumps. Okay, so you don't need to measure out 3.05 meters if you are on a non-turf pitch that is different to the rest of the field. you can clearly see when the ball has landed off the pitch. What if a ball is so wide that it causes the striker to leave the pitch for the striker to play at the ball? Or what if the ball, it does happen sometimes in junior cricket where the bowlers don't have enough power for the ball to get to the striker. So in either of these two scenarios, if the striker has to leave the pitch, so no part of the striker is still on the 3.05 meter width of the pitch. If they go off the pitch to try and play a shot, then the bowlers and umpire will call and signal no ball, and immediately thereafter call and signal dead ball so that the striker can't hit that ball. Okay. Similarly, if the ball is bowled by a bowler and it does not reach the striker's wicket, then the bowlers and umpire shall call and signal no ball and immediately call and signal dead ball. I haven't seen this one happen, but if it does, it would also be a no ball. If a bowler bowls the ball, and if, for example, there's a short leg fielder, maybe 2 meters wide of the striker, that short leg fielder is obviously off the pitch. The ball is bowled in the air, and before it gets to the striker, or before it hits the striker's bat or person, or makes contact with the striker's bat or person, it goes wide and it hasn't landed. It hits that short leg fielder. That would also entail the umpire, bowlers and umpire, to call and signal no ball and immediately thereafter call and signal dead ball. I've never seen this one happen before. If and when I do, I will definitely play that video in a level 1 umpiring course. Now, this is where there is a difference between a law and a playing condition. Those of us who have been following the International Cricket Council Men's T20 World Cup, we will know that if a bowler bowls a ball and it's a short pitch delivery, also known as a bouncer, and it bounces over head height of the striker, what do we normally call, or what do we see on TV the strikers and umpire call and the bowlers and umpire confirming that call? They call wide. That is a playing condition for most international cricket around the world and most professional cricket around the world and even most recreational cricket around the world. Short pitch delivery or a bouncer bouncing over head height of the striker, we normally call wide as per the playing conditions. But what does law say? Law says the umpire shall call and signal no ball for any delivery which after pitching passes or would have passed over the head height of the striker standing upright at the popping crease. So as per law, it's not a wide, it is a no ball. I know in England there are a few competitions that still apply this law rather than applying the wide playing condition. It is supposed to be a no ball if a ball is bowled and it bounces over head height of the striker standing upright at the popping crease. Okay, so that's why it's important for us before a match, before a competition, to read the playing conditions of that particular match or tournament. We might know our laws, but the playing conditions might differ slightly from the laws. And this is one case which is quite common around the world for the playing condition to differ from the law. When else do we have to call and signal no ball? We will get to these laws in further lectures. The position of the wicket keeper, they are not allowed to be in front of the stumps until the striker hits the ball or the ball passes the line of the stumps or the striker attempts a run. If they are having their gloves in front of the line of the stumps at the striker's end, then we shall call and signal no ball as soon as the ball is delivered. Limitation of onside fielders, we'll also learn about next week, Monday. If the fielders encroach onto the pitch and the bowler bowls the ball, that would also be a no ball. We will have a picture that depicts this scenario. Bowling of dangerous and unfair short pitch deliveries we'll learn about in level 2 and level 3. No balls also come in. Bowling of dangerous and unfair non-pitching deliveries, also known as full tosses, they are also punishable by a no ball. We will learn more about those in level 2 and level 3. Bowling of deliberate front foot no balls is definitely a no ball, but there's further punishment for that. So let's have a look at one or two of these no balls in other laws. If the wicket keeper, as per this diagram, takes the ball in front of the stumps, that will be a no ball. Law dictates that a maximum of 2 fielders can be behind the popping crease on the leg side when the ball is delivered. If there are more than 2 fielders behind the popping crease on the leg side when the ball is delivered, either umpire and the square leg or the strikers and umpires in a good position to see this, they shall call and signal no ball. This is an example of such an infringement. You can see we've got the short leg fielder behind the popping crease. We've got the leg slip fielder behind the popping crease on the leg side. And we've got a backward square leg fielder also behind the popping crease on the leg side. That is why the umpire is rightfully signaling no ball in that picture. Remember, we said the length of the pitch is 20.12 meters and the width of the pitch is 3.05 meters. The field, no fielder is allowed onto this area that is shaded in orange until the ball passes the bat or the ball touches the bat or person of the striker. If there is such an infringement as per this picture, you can see that fielder, the left foot is on the pitch. That is not allowed. As soon as the bowler bowls the ball, either umpire, the bowlers and umpires in the best position to see this, the bowlers and umpire will call and signal no ball. Good umpiring practice, if you see this as the bowler is running in, I would rather stop the match and tell that fielder, educate the fielder that they're not allowed on the pitch before the ball is bowled, so they must get off. Otherwise, they will be called no ball. An umpire shall revoke the call of no ball if dead ball is called. For example, if a bowler oversteps the popping crease, but in his or her delivery action, they don't release the ball. They do not deliver the ball. Remember, we can only call no ball if a ball is delivered. So if the ball is not delivered, as per one of the laws that Abdullah covered, we shall not call no ball. We shall call and signal dead ball. If we did call no ball, thinking that the bowler was going to release the ball after having overstepped with his or her front foot over the popping crease, if we did call no ball, then we need to revoke the call of no ball, okay? Because we cannot call no ball unless the bowler bowls the ball. We revoke the call of no ball, and then we call and signal dead ball in that scenario. No ball to override wide. What does this mean? A call of no ball shall override the call of wide ball at any time. Let me give you an example to illustrate this point. So, bowler bowls the ball, front foot is fine, back foot is fine, bowls it down, far down leg side, batter cannot reach the ball, bowlers in umpire calls and signal wide. At the same time, the strikers in umpire, noticing that there are 3 fielders behind the popping crease on the leg side, which is not allowed, maximum of 2, the strikers in umpire calls and signal no ball. So we've got a wide signaled by the bowlers in umpire, and we've got a no ball signaled by the strikers in umpire. Do both count? No. Law instructs that the no ball overrides the wide. So the wide will not count, and the bowlers in umpire would have to revoke that signal of wide, and then to the scorers, they would signal no ball. Okay, you cannot have a no ball and a wide on the same delivery. The no ball will always overrule the wide. Does the ball become dead when a no ball is bowled? No, the ball does not become dead on the call of no ball. The ball stays alive. Batters can run, and there are ways that a batter can be out of a no ball. We will deal with those shortly. What is the penalty for a no ball? A penalty of 1 run shall be awarded instantly on the call of no ball. Unless the call is revoked, the penalty shall stand even if a batter is dismissed. It shall be in addition to any other runs scored, any boundary allowances, and any other runs awarded for penalties. So as soon as a no ball is called, unless it's revoked, that 1 run penalty for a no ball will always stand for that delivery. As we all know, a no ball shall not count as one of the legal deliveries that make up an over. An over is made up of 6 legal deliveries we learnt on Monday. Can a batter be out of a no ball? Yes, they can. There are 3 ways that a batter can be out of a no ball. Hit the ball twice, obstructing the field, and run out. HOR is how I try and remember those 3 ways. Hit the ball twice, H, obstructing the field, O, run out, R. Those are the 3 ways that a batter can be out of a no ball. Moving on to the last law for today's lecture, Law 22, wide ball. Now, please remember that we are not speaking about wides and limited overs cricket. Law refers to wides in more day cricket or in multi-day cricket. A test match is a perfect example. Do you see offside wide guidelines in a test match? No, you don't. So keep that in mind as we go through this law. So the definition for a wide as per law, if the bowler bowls a ball, not being a no ball, the umpire shall judge it a wide if, according to the definition, the ball passes wide of where the striker is standing or has stood at any point after the ball came into play for that delivery. And the ball is so wide that it would have passed wide of the striker standing in a normal batting position. Okay, so it's very vague. It doesn't really give us dimensions to work with. It just says that if a batter in his or her normal batting position cannot reach the ball by playing a normal cricket stroke, then the bowler's end umpire will judge it a wide. If the striker cannot reach the ball by playing a normal cricket stroke, then we shall call it a wide. That is the definition of how to judge a wide in Morday cricket. Okay, limited overs cricket. We know we've got the offside wide guidelines. There was a leg side wide guideline trial by the International Cricket Council from September 2025 until January 2026. That is no longer. And in the laws of cricket, we do not worry about wide guidelines. We simply follow these two definitions. If the umpire adjudges a delivery to be a wide, he or she shall call and signal wide when the ball passes the striker's wicket, and again signal wide to the scorers when the ball is dead. So the first call of and signal of wide by the bowler's end umpire is a quick one, as and when the ball is bowled and passes wide of the striker, wide ball. But similarly to a no ball, the ball does not become dead when a wide is bowled. So the batters could still run, and the bowler's end umpire needs to get into position to judge a run out. So after you call and signal wide, that is for the players to know that it's a wide delivery. Then you get into your position for a run out, watch the action, wait until the ball is dead, and then you can turn your body to face the scorers and signal wide and wait for their acknowledgement. The umpire shall only call and signal wide as soon as the ball passes the striker's wicket, even though the delivery is considered to have been wide from the instant that the bowler entered his or her delivery stride. A bit of a strange one that we consider a ball wide from the instant that the bowler entered his or her delivery stride, but of course we can only call a wide once it passes wide of the striker's wicket. Can we revoke a call of wide? Yes, we can. The umpire shall revoke the call of wide if there is any contact between the ball and the striker's bat or person before the ball comes into contact with any fielder. Sometimes you find a batter will play a very late cut. The ball has almost gone past the striker when they end up hitting the ball. We were just about to call wide because it was so wide, but take your time when calling wides. Yes, with no balls, you want to call them as early as possible, but with wides, it's quite the opposite. Wait, delay your call, make sure there wasn't any contact with the ball touching the bat or person of the striker, and make sure that it was wide of the striker before you call and signal wide. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, the umpire shall revoke the call of wide if the delivery is called a no ball. Even if the no ball call comes after the wide call, no ball will always overrule and override the wide. So we will cancel the wide signal and confirm that the delivery is a no ball, not a wide. Batters nowadays, especially in limited overs cricket, move around the crease a lot. Quite importantly, the umpire shall not adjudge a delivery as being a wide if the striker, by moving, either causes the ball to pass wide of him or her or brings the ball sufficiently within reach to be able to hit it by means of a normal cricket stroke. We sometimes see batters moving away to the leg side, and if the ball is bowled half a meter outside the offside, now all of a sudden they cannot reach it. But if they were in their normal stance, then they could have been able to reach it. So that would not be called a wide. Similarly, if a ball is bowled quite wide of the off stump, but the batter, while the bowler is in his or her delivery stride, just before they bowl it, the batter starts moving towards the offside, then the bowler can bowl the ball a little bit wider of the off stump. It will still be within reach of the striker playing a normal cricket shot, so that would not be called a wide. Calling of wides comes with experience. You need to be able to watch the feet landing as well as the striker moving at the same time to be able to correctly judge a wide. Similar to the no ball, a ball does not become dead when it is a wide ball. Similar to a no ball, the penalty for a wide is 1 run, and it shall be awarded instantly on the call of that first wide, the first call of wide, unless, of course, it is revoked. If the ball goes on to go past the wicket keeper and goes to the boundary, having rolled along the ground, it will be 1 for the wide plus 4 wides for the ball going to the boundary. And all 5 of those wide runs will go against the bowler's bowling figures. All runs completed by the batters or a boundary allowance together with the penalty for the wide, as mentioned, shall be scored as wide balls and will go against the bowler's figures. Apart from any award of 5 penalty runs, all runs resulting from a wide shall be debited against the bowler. Does a wide count as a legal delivery in the over? I'm sure we all know it does not count as one of the valid balls of an over and needs to be re-bowled. Can a batter be out from a wide? Yes. For a no ball, there are 3 ways that a batter can be out. For a wide, there are 4 ways that a batter can be out. Remember, for the no ball, we said HOR. For the wide, we just need to add S. HORS. Horse. Horse. H, hit wicket. O, obstructing the field. R, run out. S, stumped. Those are the 4 ways that a batter can be out of a wide delivery. Right, that is all the content that we are delivering to you today. I am now going to go through the answers of the quiz questions that Abdullah and I posed along the way. The first one is a highly debated boundary catch, 19.2. Is this a boundary 6 or is this out court? And I haven't seen the answers in the chat box, so I'll just play the video again and then I'll talk you through it.
Right. 6. So if he makes the first contact from where he jumped inside the rope, and then when the last contact is made, he's back inside the rope, it's out. So as long as when he threw it up the second time, his feet were in the air, his last point of contact has to be back in. So when he's outside the boundary rope, when he takes the ball again, his feet must be in the air when he throws it up again. Effectively, he could throw it up 300 times as long as his feet are in the air.
Effectively, he could throw it up 300 times as long as his feet are in the air. So that's the commentator's version of the laws. And as the law stands as it is today, the 4th of March 2026, this is out court. Okay. So the commentator did explain that the first contact with the ball needs to be inside the field of play, and the last contact with the ball needs to be inside the field of play. And of course, they cannot be grounded outside of the field of play when they touch the ball. And Michael Nesser ticked all those 3 boxes. The Marylebone Cricket Club, who are the custodians of the laws of cricket, they have changed this law, and the change will be effective 1st of October 2026. Interestingly enough, the International Cricket Council have already applied the new law to their current playing conditions. So we're in a funny transition period currently. According to the current law, this is out court. According to the ICC playing conditions, which have adopted the new law already, this would be a boundary 6. So the new law that will be in effect from the 1st of October 2026, but is already being used by the International Cricket Council, says that Michael Nesser, in this scenario, if he wanted this to be out court, then he would have to magically, from this point, when he jumps and comes into contact with the ball outside the field of play, his jump would need to land back in the field of play. He cannot make contact with the ball outside the field of play, even if it's in the air. He cannot land again outside the field of play. He needs to land from his first and only jump back in the field of play. So it sounds complicated, but it's actually making things a lot easier for TV umpires to adjudicate. The new law says that you cannot bunny hop outside the field of play and juggle the ball up to 300 times. No, only one juggle is allowed, and you would need to jump immediately straight back into the field of play after that single juggle. So correct answer, in a roundabout way, as the law stands, this is out court. But as per the new law, which will be effective 1st of October 2026, this is boundary 6. So whichever answer you put is somehow correct for tonight. Next quiz question. Alex Carey versus Johnny Bairstow at Lord's. Big hoo-ha about this at the time, but it was actually a pretty straightforward decision. Why? Because Johnny Bairstow was outside his crease while the ball was still live. So Abdullah mentioned the ball becomes dead when it is finally settled in the hands of the wicketkeeper or of the bowler. This ball was never finally settled in Alex Carey's hand. As soon as he got the ball, he immediately released it to throw down the stumps of Johnny Bairstow. He didn't have it in his hand for half a second. And there is no time limit as to finally settled. Okay, it is up to the bowlers and umpire to decide whether they feel that the fielding side and the batters at the crease have considered the ball as dead. Johnny Bairstow considered the ball as dead, but the Australian fielders definitely did not consider the ball as dead. That is why the bowlers and umpire had not called over. It was the last ball of the over. Bowlers and umpire had not yet called over when Johnny Bairstow left his crease. Alex Carey threw the ball. Correct decision as per the laws of cricket. Maybe against the spirit of cricket, but the correct decision as per the laws of cricket is Johnny Bairstow out stumped. Why stumped and not run out? Because Johnny Bairstow was not attempting a run. So he was out stumped by Alex Carey. Next quiz question. Is this a dead ball or is this out run out? So what we need to consider here is this a serious injury? We can see that the ball hits the glove of the striker. The striker signals to the change room for the physio to come out and assist him. But for me, this picture here is the reason why I don't consider it a serious injury. If it were a serious injury, the batter would not be leaning half of his body weight on that injured hand. He would be wringing his fingers. He would have taken the glove off. There would have been blood all over. Then I would consider it a serious injury. But the fact that he still had the mind to call for the physio and he could still put weight on that hand, for me, definitely not a serious injury. I would not be calling and signaling dead ball. I would allow play to continue because he was outside of his crease while the ball was still alive. He was given out correctly as run out. Then we have a Scottish spin bowler, Mark Watt, who is famous for bowling from behind the bowling crease, but in front of the bowlers and umpire. Is this allowed? Yes, it is allowed. Why then did the striker, Khalid Kale, step away? The striker was not ready for the delivery. It caught him by surprise that the bowler bowled from 1.5 meters behind the bowling crease. So he, within his right, stepped away on both occasions and did not attempt a shot. And yes, the bowlers and umpire correctly called and signaled dead ball. It is not for the bowler to decide when they are ready that they can bowl. It is for the bowler to watch the striker to see that the striker is ready before they bowl. Yes, as an umpire, we can speak to the batter to say that batter, you need to be ready as soon as the bowler is at the top of his or her mark. But if the striker pulls out, as he did on both occasions, then we need to call and signal dead ball, because by the striker pulling out, that is his signal to the umpire that they were not ready for the delivery. We can warn the striker for time wasting if they are continually not ready for a delivery, but we will not allow the delivery to be a fair delivery. We will not allow the bowler to bowl out the striker when they are not ready. So correct answer for this quiz question 20.3, dead ball. Last quiz question for the evening. Is Jasprit Bumrah's bowling action legal? You can see there is quite a bend on his elbow there. But the critical part of the bend of his elbow, whether it is less than 15 degrees or exactly 15 degrees or more than 15 degrees, is irrelevant. Why? Because the elbow, you will see, is bending backwards. The terminology that the International Cricket Council uses, the elbow is hyperextending. And the International Cricket Council has said that the elbow, if it hyperextends, if it bends backwards, then it does not matter the angle, it will be legal. Only if the elbow bends forward, then it is limited to a maximum bend or flex of 15 degrees. But in the case where a bowler's arm hyperextends or the elbow hyperextends, so it bends backwards, then it can flex or bend to whatever degree, and it will be a legal delivery. So that is why Jasprit Bumrah has never been called up for throwing. Because his elbow hyperextends, it is always considered a legal delivery. There we go, folks. 2 hours of presenting and questions and answers. I'm sure Abdullah did warn you at the beginning of the lecture that it was going to be a long one today. Thank you so much for your attendance and your attention. I am now going to go into the chat box and see what questions have been posed while we were presenting. Before I go into the chat box, I'm going to activate all of your cameras. So if you want to see or be seen, you are welcome to activate your cameras. When I have gone through all the questions and comments in the chat box, then I will open up the floor for live questions, and then I will activate everybody's microphones. So let's see what's been happening in the chat box. Lizan says, my question is, if a ball is bowled and it hits the keeper's helmet that is placed behind him, can penalty runs be awarded? Lizan, yes. We will go through this in detail on Monday next week. It's part of Law 27, the fielder. But to answer your question simply, yes, it will be 5 penalty runs awarded to the batting side if the ball goes past the wicketkeeper and hits the helmet placed behind the wicketkeeper. So I see a lot of you answered a lot of questions. Thank you very much. Definitely not a serious injury in my opinion and in the opinion of the on-field umpires that day. So that was out, run out. And Johnny Bairstow's scenario, definitely out stumped. Okay. Dion has updated us on the World Cup semi-final between South Africa and New Zealand. New Zealand, well done to them, winning convincingly by 9 wickets. South Africa out of the World Cup. Okay. So you've all now learned about hyperflexing of the elbow or hyperextending. Does not matter the degree of the flex or the bend if it is bent backwards. So Jasprit Bumrah's action is legal. Louis knows about the hyperextended elbow. Well done. Neville asks, bowler delivering a ball from behind the umpire. How should an umpire judge that ball? Should the striker's end umpire help, as the bowler's end umpire might not be able to see whether the bowler is throwing or bowling? So Neville, firstly, we learned today that if the bowler throws the ball before entering his or her delivery stride, it will not be called a no ball. It will be called a dead ball. Okay, that's if the bowler throws the ball, whether it is in front of the bowler's end umpire or behind the bowler's end umpire. If they are trying to run out the striker who's standing outside his or her popping crease, it will be a dead ball. And we will tell the bowler, don't do that, otherwise we will call you up for time wasting. So now what about, and we saw it at the World Cup, and we saw it in Mark Watt's example, is a bowler allowed to bowl from behind the popping crease, behind the bowling crease, but in front of the bowler's end umpire? Yes, they can do that as long as the batter is ready. Then the batter will play the shot and it will be a legal delivery. But now, what about a bowler bowling from behind the bowler's end umpire? So the bowler's end umpire cannot see if the arm is straight, firstly. Also, the bowler's end umpire cannot see if the back foot has landed inside the return crease. Yes, the bowler's end umpire can see that the front foot was well behind the popping crease. But because they cannot determine whether the back foot landed inside the return crease or outside the return crease or in line with the return crease, then we call and signal dead ball. So if a bowler bowls from behind the bowler's end umpire, we will call and signal dead ball. A bowler is not allowed to bowl a delivery from behind the bowler's end umpire. It is not written in the laws. It was a decision taken by the International Cricket Council because Tino Best, former West Indies bowler, he bowled a delivery from about half a meter behind the bowler's end umpire in a Caribbean Premier League match many years ago. And after that Caribbean Premier League, there was a World Cup. And before that World Cup, the umpires met and they had a pre-tournament meeting and they decided if a bowler bowls from behind the bowler's end umpire, that's how they would treat it. They would call and signal dead ball, and they would tell the bowler's end umpire, they would tell the bowler that yes, they can move a little bit back to accommodate if the bowler wants to bowl from far back, but obviously to a certain extent. We cannot stand 10 meters behind the stumps. Even 5 meters is quite far. Normally we stand between 2.5 to 4 meters behind the bowler's end stumps. So the agreed upon application, if a bowler bowls from behind the bowler's end umpire, call and signal dead ball and tell them if they continue to bowl from behind the bowler's end umpire, we will warn them for time wasting. Moving on in the chat box, Dr. C. DeCock, no balls and creases. Does it matter when the ball is delivered? That is, ball delivered, then the front foot touches the return crease. Okay, so remember, the back foot is governed by the return crease. The front foot is governed by the popping crease. And it is only for the bowling action that we judge the feet landing. Okay, so the run up, the bowler can run from wide, and maybe their step before going into their gather, maybe that back foot will be touching the return crease or even outside the return crease. But we're not worried about the steps leading up to the bowling action. We are only worried about the 2 steps of the bowling action. When the back foot lands for a last time, and when the front foot lands for a last time before the ball leaves the hand. Those are the 2 steps that we are worried about. And those are the 2 steps where the feet are governed by the return crease governs the back foot landing, and the popping crease governs the front foot landing. I hope that answers your question, Dr. de Kock. Louis Duplessis, apologies. Umpire's action with a deliberate no ball. If a bowler bowls with their front foot landing a meter over the popping crease, we will call and signal no ball because it is a no ball. And then we will ask the captain of the fielding side to remove the bowler from the attack. They cannot bowl for the rest of that innings. That is in law 41. I just want to double check if they are suspended for the rest of the innings or the rest of the match. Because if it's a 2 innings match and they do it, they deliberately bowl a front foot no ball in the first innings, will they be allowed to bowl in the second innings? I'm just going through the slides and I will give you the exact answer shortly. Bowling of deliberate front foot no ball. Bear with me while I find it. It is in my level 2 presentation. I know that for sure. I cannot find it in the level 1 presentation. Apologies for that. I will find it and I will just confirm. Bowling of deliberate front foot no ball. Bowler is suspended after you call and signal no ball. Are they suspended for the entire match or just the rest of the innings? I will confirm for you, Louis, in Monday's lecture. Neville asks, a bowler delivers a fair delivery which pitched mid-pitch and went wide of the striker. Seeing the ball going off the pitch, the striker ran towards the ball, leaving the pitch fully to play the ball. But the ball was still wide and out of reach. The striker missed the ball and it went towards third man and crossed the boundary. As the umpire at the bowler's end, what action will you take? So you will, as per law, call and signal no ball and immediately thereafter call and signal dead ball. So the ball going past third man and crossing the boundary is irrelevant because as soon as you call dead ball, that is the end of that delivery. So it'll only be the 1-run penalty for the no ball and the batters will remain at their original ends and the striker for that no ball and dead ball will face the next delivery. Frank Hall asks, I've had difficulty making a payment using the PayPal link with funds being returned due to the sender not having filled out the SA regulatory form. I'll be in South Africa next week. Can I make payment directly to the South African bank account provider or SA residents, but pay the 600 Rand fee? Yes, please, Frank. I would appreciate if you paid the 600 rands into Western Province Cricket Umpires Association's standard bank account using electronic funds transfers. Please note to all of you that the WPCUA bank account cannot receive international transfers. That is why the funds were sent back to you, Frank, because you tried to make an international transfer into Western Province Cricket Umpires Association's bank account. Our international candidates should try use PayPal to pay for their exam fee, $30 US. If you do not have a PayPal account, please ask a friend or a family member to pay using their PayPal account. If you do not know anyone that has a PayPal account, then you can ask me for my personal bank account details. My bank account can receive international transfers, and then I will, once I receive it, then transfer it to Western Province Cricket Umpires Association's bank account. That is the process to follow. So Offense Kokoba has entered their email address. I will add that email address to the mailing list, and we'll make sure that they receive all correspondence for the rest of the course. Still more answers to questions in the presentation that were posed. Then we have Tertius Geldenhuys, who saw a TV umpire referral of a catch, and I was traveling from Cape Town to Durban, so I didn't watch the match live myself. I have had already a number of people asking me about the validity of this catch. The TV umpire gave it out. I'm just going to share my screen for everyone to see it. This is the first time that I'm seeing the video footage of it. And let's go through it together. So what we need to, as TV umpires, decide, have the fingers gotten under the ball? Has the ball at any time touched the ground? If you look at it from this angle, it's not conclusive, but it looks like his fingers get underneath the ball. I think that is the angle that he used to make his decision. If you look at it from the side angle, it doesn't look as good, does it? This angle, the ball appears to go through his fingers onto the ground and then into his fingers, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So not an easy decision, but I believe the TV umpire used this angle as his final definitive angle to judge it as a fair catch. Not a perfect science, because the cameras, as good as they are, will always be limited in terms of seeing if the ball has touched the ground or not. So Tertius, as a South African supporter, I'm sure you felt it was not out. As a New Zealand supporter, I'm sure they felt it was out. Unfortunately, the person whose opinion matters the most is the TV umpire. He gave it out, and so Aiden Markram was given out. Okay. that is all the questions and comments in the chat box. Once again, thanks to all of you for answering our quiz questions. I'm sure you learned a lot from them. I am now going to activate everybody's camera and activate everybody's microphone. And if there are any more questions that you would like to pose live, now is your chance to put your hand up and I will acknowledge you and ask you to unmute your microphone to ask your question live. I do not see any hands in the meeting room. I do not see any questions posed in the chat box. Neville's hand has just gone up. Neville, please unmute your microphone. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Tom.
Yes, Neville, go ahead.
Yeah, Tom, I have a question in regards to the ball pitching outside of the pitch in terms of making a decision regarding a no ball versus a wide ball. If a ball is fully pitched outside of the wicket, but it pitches it pitches on the ground after the wickets. In that case, will that be a no ball or a wide ball?
So law is pretty clear. For it to be a no ball, it needs to land off the pitch, but before the line of the striker's wicket. So before the bowling crease. If the ball lands off the pitch, but it lands after the line of the stumps or the bowling crease, then it won't be a no ball, it will be a wide. Okay, so the ball has to land within that 20.12 meters or the 22 yards from the one set of stumps to the other set of stumps off the pitch, it will be a no ball. But if it lands behind the striker's set of stumps off the pitch, it is not a no ball, it will be a wide. I hope that answers your question, Neville. And remember, the person who is in the best position to see if the ball has landed before the stumps or after the stumps is the striker's end umpire. So there needs to be teamwork there between the two on-field umpires to decide where it has landed. It's landed off the pitch. The bowler's end umpire is certain of that. It's easy to see. But has it landed before the set of stumps or after the set of stumps? If it's before the line of the striker stumps, then it's a no ball. If it's after the line of the striker stumps, then it is a wide. Happy, Neville?
Yes, Tom. Thank you so much. Tom, I have one more question.
Go for it.
And this is in regards to the judging a wide ball from an umpire's perspective. Like, at what point in time do we consider the batsman's position, whether it's when the bowler starts running up or when the bowler is at his delivery stride? That's when that position where the batsman is taking to play the ball is considered to make a judgment of a wide ball.
Very good question. So you need to, and it's very difficult because you are watching the bowler's feet landing, but you need to judge where the striker is when the ball is released from the bowler's hand. So yes, they can move before, as the bowler's running up, the batter can move up, down, back, forth, to the leg side, to the offside. You need to try and ignore all of that movement. You need to watch where the striker is when the bowler releases the ball. And if the striker then moves again, then depending on your playing conditions, then the offside wide guideline can also move wider to give the bowler more area to work with for a fair delivery. But to answer your question, we judge where the striker is when the ball is released at the release point of the bowler, and then we can decide, is the striker in a position to play a normal cricket shot? If we feel that the striker cannot reach the delivery by playing a normal cricket shot as per law, if they cannot reach the delivery by playing a normal cricket shot, then we will judge it as wide. This is as per law. Of course, with the playing conditions of limited overs cricket, you've got your offside wide guidelines, and normally everything down leg side behind the striker is also given wide. There's a video on YouTube, Neville, where I try and describe all of this with a batter and a bowler. But the description of your question, or the answer to your question in that video, is not answered correctly. It was before we were told by the International Cricket Council that we judge it as per when the ball leaves the hand. I said in that video that any time that the bowler is running up as the batter is moving, they are moving the wide guidelines. That is not the case. We need to judge the wide guidelines based on where the striker is when the ball is released by the bowler. So I will put the link to that video in the chat box. But please note that where we judge the wide is from where the striker is when the bowler releases the delivery. So just bear with me as I find that video and I copy the link and I paste it into the chat box. Here it is, 14 minutes. Enjoy the video. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I do not see any more questions or comments in the chat box. I do not see any more hands raised in the meeting room. So I'll take this opportunity to thank you all for your attendance and your interaction. This lecture has been recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel by tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. South African time. Our next lecture will be on Monday, the 9th of March. Same time, same place, same Microsoft Teams meeting link. Until then, have a great weekend. And for the rest of today, enjoy your day, and we will chat again on Monday. Thank you and goodbye.